Hello everyone. Today I am going to discuss about the fundamentals of cryptography. So now let's see the outline of the today class. So this is the outline for today class. First, let's see. First, we will see what is cryptography and what are all the basic things are required for making cryptography. After completing the cryptography, we will see the two attacker models. Okay, so for example, passive attacker model and active attacker model. Okay, so once we completed these two attacker models, then we will see the classical encryption technique. Okay, so some of the traditional encryption techniques we will discuss. Okay, so once we completed the traditional classical encryption technique, then we will see what is cryptanalysis. How does cryptanalysis helps to recover the key and message? Okay, so once we find out the cryptanalysis, finally we will see what all the attacks are possible. Okay, so how we can identify these kind of attacks with the help of cryptanalysis. Okay, so this is what we will discuss in the session. Now let's see what is cryptography. See, usually cryptography is all about the study of communication between two parties. Okay, for example, sender and receiver. Okay, so that is we call it as cryptography. Okay, so but in formal definition and some formal as well as popular definition is the study of mathematical techniques for securing digital information systems and distributed computation against adversarial attack. Okay, so this is the most popular definition of cryptography. But orally, usually people are using this definition. Cryptography is all about the secure communication between two parties like sender and receiver. Okay, but this is the formal definition of cryptography. Okay, so what are the matters are associated with this cryptography? So the first one, the cryptography precise mathematical security definitions. Yes. See, suppose we want to protect something. So what we'll do in a mathematical way, we described all those things in cryptography. Okay. So that's why the mathematical the symbols are precised in the form of algorithms or like in the form of algorithms or sequence of steps like that. Okay, so this is the first information required for that cryptography. And what about the second one? Specific algorithm assumptions. Okay, so that cryptography it consists of specific algorithmic assumptions. Okay, so what is specific algorithmic assumptions? Okay, so there are many cryptography algorithms are there. Okay, so there are along with that algorithms, there are many attacks are possible. So based on the attack, we have to choose the proper algorithmic algorithm. Okay, so proper cryptographic algorithms. Okay, so depends on the situation, we have to choose the algorithm. Okay, so assumptions, there are so many algorithmic assumptions are there. So depends on the situation, we have to choose on a specific algorithmic assumptions. Okay. Then we will see formal security reduction and proof. Okay. So suppose if you are defining all the security models in a mathematical way, so through that mathematical theorems and other things, we have to prove that uh, that particular proposed method is correct or not. Okay, so this is the way the cryptography informations are included. Okay, so this is the basics about the definition of cryptography. Now let's see what does the cryptography mean to secure information. Okay, so in order to secure our confidential information, we must satisfy these three security principles. So what are the security principles are there? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, so these are all the major and basic and mandatory principles are we need to satisfy. See, once we satisfy these three requirements, so we make sure ourselves that are the business people, they make sure themselves their data, it may be secured one. Okay, so that's why these security principles are crucial one for protecting our confidential information. Okay, now let's see what is confidentiality. So what is confidentiality? Only the legitimate recipient, okay, only the intended recipient can see the communication. Okay, see, suppose I want to send some confidential information to my friend. Okay, so that information, it must be it must be visible to my friend. Okay, because that is confidential information. So if someone is stealing or someone is copying now, so our purpose is defeated. Okay, so confidentiality is the first principle we need to satisfy. Whenever we are sending our confidential information, only the corresponding receiver people only, they have to see the confidential information. That is the first one. And what about the second one? Integrity. So what is integrity? See, the message was actually sent by the alleged sender. Okay. See, suppose I want to transfer 1,000 rupees from my account to my friend account. Okay. So the same amount only would be credited to my friend. Suppose 1,000 rupees, someone is intentionally they are removing 1 0 now, by default, what will happen? The integrity is failed. Okay. See, whatever amount I have to send, the same amount it must be received by the my friend. Okay, so that is we call it as integrity. And what about the third one? Availability. So what is availability? See, maintaining the ability to access your resources when needed. Okay, suppose some natural disasters are happening, like earthquake or tsunami. Okay, see, even these kind of natural disasters are happening, our data, it must be uh, ready to provide services to end users. Okay, so that's why availability also is one of the important core principle. Okay, for providing security to confidential data. Okay, so this is the way the secure informations are protected. Okay, now let's see the two attacker models. So what is two attacker models? So there are two type of attacks are there: active attack and passive attack. So now let's see what is passive attack. So the passive attack, it consists of one or two types like interception and traffic analysis. Okay, so likewise. So first let's see interception. Okay, so now let's see what is interception. Suppose let's see this figure. There are two parties are involved. Okay, so who are all? Bob is trying to send some confidential information to allies. Okay, through internet. Okay, so this is the normal communication. So through some proper channel, they are communicating with their friend allies. Okay, but in between dark, some third party person, they simply read the content from Bob and Alaya, Bob message. Okay, see, the dart, he cannot do anything. He only read the message. But these two people, Bob and Alais, they don't know each other. They don't know someone is already read their confidential information. Okay, so this kind of attack, we call it as interception attack. Passive attack, interception. Okay, someone read your confidential information without knowledge of the sender and the receiver. Okay, so this kind of technique, we call it as interception. Okay, this is one kind of passive attack. Okay, so already we discussed. Now let's see traffic analysis. Okay, how the people are reading someone message, because that person, it must be an expert of in network security. Okay, so they know what are all the transmission lines are people are using. They know all about the network traffic details. Okay, so that they can easily track the message and finally read the confidential information. Okay, so that only experts can do all those things. Okay, so this is, we call it as passive attack traffic analysis. Now let's see active attack. So what is active attack? Passive attack, someone is copying the information. sorry, reading the information. Finally, they make use of their own purpose or some other purpose. Now, what is active attack? Okay, so again, there are two parties are there. Okay, so again, there are two parties are there, POP and allies. They are trying to send some confidential information from POP to allies. Okay, but what will happen when the third party dot he read the content of message from POP. Okay, but what he will do, he try to change, read the message and try to modify the message and finally send to allies. Okay, so this is we call it as active attack. Okay, this figure explained clearly. Okay, so whenever POP sending message directly dot receive, whenever he received that message, he alter, okay, he altered the message and finally sent to allies. Okay, so this kind of attack we call it as active attack. Okay, or sometimes we may call it as replay attack. So either uh, they replay now, which means they entirely the content may modified or something they changed. Okay, and finally sent to license. See, whatever it is, they do some modification in the original confidential message. Okay, so that is we call it as active attack. See, one thing you have to remember: passive attack, an attacker, they won't do anything. They cannot do anything. They simply read the message and finally forward it to the allies. But whereas in an active attack, they modified the content and finally sent to the allies. Okay, so that is the difference between an active attack and a passive attack. So how can we handle this kind of attack? Okay, so only one solution is there. Okay, so that is we call it as prevention is better than cure. Okay, so prevention is always required. So how to protect our personal information. Okay. In the passive attack, easy to stop but hard to detect because they read the message. They cannot modify anything in the original message. Okay. So it is very difficult to identify the situation because we can't do anything. Okay. So these kind of attacks are very, very dangerous. So prevention is better than cure. Okay. And what about the active attacks? Someone has modified your original content and finally send it to receiver side. But it is hard to stop. But only one solution is there. So we may detect the person. Okay, someone is modified the particular original content like that. We understood. Okay, so that is the good thing. So whenever we identify, so we may change the uh, uh, tactics. Okay, so this is the way we can handle these kind of attacks, active attacks and passive attack. Now let's see what are the basic security services are there for preventing these kind of attack. So the first one, authentication. So what is authentication? Authentication, it is all about an act of confirming the truth of an attribute or values, which is usually based on the username and password. Okay. See, nowadays there are many authentications or authentication techniques are proposed. Okay, single actor, multi-factor authentication, and if more than one factors are involved, that authentication we call it as multi-factor authentication. Usually, authentication involve two factors. Username one factor, password is another factor. Okay, if more than one factors are involved, that is we call it as multi-factor authentication. Okay, this is one kind of security services available to protect the confidential information. And what about the second one, access control? So prevention of the unauthorized use of resources. Okay, for example, if you are taking mobile, see, whenever we want to download something, we must use the proper Google Store. Okay, see, if you are downloading other than the Google Store, by default, what will happen? So the vulnerability possibility is huge. Okay, some third party, if you are downloading some third party application, so there may be a possibility for stealing your confidential information from your mobile. Okay, so that's why prevention of unauthorized use of resources also is very, very important services to protect our confidential information. And what about the third one, data confidentiality? So already we discussed. Okay, so we must protection of data from unauthorized disclosure, and data integrity. Okay. So already we discussed integrity, already we discussed. Okay. See, suppose I want to send some money, 500 rupees, the same amount, it must be received by the opposite side. Okay. And non-repudiation. Okay. Non-repudiation also is one of the important security services available in cryptography. So it protection against denial by one of the parties in a communication. Okay, so it will give some protection against more than one communication problems, communication text. Okay, so these are all the basic security services that are available in cryptography. And the last one, availability. See, even if you are facing some natural disaster problem, that time also that data it must be ready to give provide services to the end users. Okay, so this is the basic requirement for security services. And what are the security mechanisms are there? So feature designed to detect, prevent, or recover from a security attack. Okay. So yeah, we need to design the model for detecting, preventing, or recovery from the security attack. Whenever we want to develop something like algorithm, okay, so that algorithm it must satisfy for detecting the errors, detecting the attack, preventing the attack. Even someone is already attacked, so we have to recover our confidential information. Okay, so this is the way we must design the security systems. Okay, and no single mechanism that will support all services required. Okay, so it is very difficult because we need to spend huge amount of money for doing this kind of things. Okay, so but in future there must be a possibility for getting all those things. Okay, we may achieve this. And one particular element underlines many of the security mechanisms in use. Okay, so already we know that there are so many cryptographic techniques are there. By using the cryptographic technique, so we may protect our confidential information. Suppose if you are using cloud, okay, so most of the time cloud computing users are they integrated with AES algorithm, advanced encryption standard algorithm. Okay, so that algorithm is best fit for cloud computing services. Okay, so there are so many reasons are there so that people are choosing AES algorithm. Now let's see classical encryption technique. Okay, so what is encryption? Okay, so encryption, it is all about the plain text is converted into ciphertext. Okay, but whereas decryption, the decryption, it is all about the ciphertext is converted into plain text. Okay, so there are two type of encryptions are there: symmetric key encryption and asymmetric encryption. So symmetric encryption, it is all about we use the same key for both sides, sender side as well as receiver sides. But whereas in asymmetric encryption, different keys we are using, sender side as well as uh, receiver side. Because here key means whenever we want to encrypt our original message, so with the help of key only we will encrypt it and finally send it to the receiver side. The receiver know the keys, they can open it, they can decrypt the message. Otherwise, our data it may be in a safer place. Okay, so this is the standard and traditional cryptographic mechanism. Okay, so here private key means only it's a single key. Okay, so no one knows, only the receiver and sender only knows the private keys. Okay, so they are sharing with some secured channel. Okay, so they are sharing their proper single key to private key to opposite side, like receiver side. Okay, so most of the classical encryption algorithms are private keys. Okay, so that private key was invented initially it was invented in the year 1970s and most widely used algorithms also. Okay, so because it provides more security, okay, in comparison with the public cryptography. Okay, now let's see some of the basic terminology. Plain text. So plain text it is all about some original message. Ciphertext means some coded message, which is encrypted message. So cipher means so the plain text is converted into ciphertext. So the ciphertext we call it as cipher. Key means so with the help of key only we can encrypt the message. So encipher or encryption means already we discussed converting plain text to ciphertext. Decipher means decrypt decipher or decrypt means recovering ciphertext to plain text. Okay, so cryptography already we know that it's a study of communication between secure communication between two parties. And what about the cryptanalysis? That cryptanalysis which helps to recover the key as well as message. So, okay, so mostly they prefer for keys because key only provides security. Okay, so key only provides security, so that by using some cryptanalysis we are recovering the keys. And what is the cryptology? Cryptology, it is all about the field of both cryptography and cryptanalysis. If both cryptography and cryptanalysis are combined, so that technique we call it as cryptology. Okay, so these are all the some basic terminologies are available in cryptography. Now let's see one simple example for symmetric cipher model. Okay, see, assume that this is the plain text. Okay, some messages are there. So that messages are encrypted with the help of some encryption algorithm. Okay, so the encryption algorithm is DES algorithm, okay, data encryption standard algorithm. So with the help of this encryption algorithm, we encrypted this message with the key. So that key we call it a secret key. Okay. So this secret key is shared by sender and recipient. Okay. So without key, we cannot open it because key is unique. So this is the first step. See, once the encryption has been done, then it will be transferred, the ciphertext, it will be transferred to receiver side, okay, through some proper channel. See, in the receiver side, the receiver, they must know, he must or she must know the secret key, because otherwise he may not or she may not open this or decrypt this original message. Okay? See, whatever algorithms are used in the sender side, the same algorithm it must be used in receiver side. Then only they can decrypt it. Okay. See, once the messages are encrypted with the help of key, that key is shared to uh, receiver side. Okay. So the receivers, once the receivers get the key, with the help of this key, they decrypt the message with the help of the same DES algorithm. Finally, they will get the message. Okay. So this entire model, we will call it as symmetric cipher model. So why we call it as symmetric cipher model? Because same key was used by two sides. So here we used same key for two sides, sender side as well as receiver side. Okay. See, once we completed the encryption with the help of some key, so that key is shared to receiver side. So same key was used by same keys. Okay. So this model we call it as symmetric cipher model. Now let's see the basic requirement. So what are the basic requirements are there? Okay. So there are two type of requirements. Okay, two requirements for secure use of symmetric encryption. So the first one, strong encryption algorithm, like DES, AES, like this. Okay, and secret key known only to sender and receiver. See, whenever the keys are shared, okay, so there may be a possibility for hacking the keys or modifying the keys. Okay, so these two basic requirements are very much needed for symmetric encryption model. Okay, so this is the mathematical definition. So y equal to encryption of message. Okay, so x means message and encryption of message with the help of key. So here represent key. Okay, so x now is encrypted message. So that encrypted message is decrypted with the help of same key. Okay, so finally we will get the original message. Okay, so this is the way the symmetric and non-traditional encryption decryption algorithms are defined in the form of mathematics. Okay, suppose let us assume that our encryption algorithm is known. Okay, but the key encryption algorithm, suppose the attacker knows the encryption algorithm, but he don't know or she don't know the key. By default, what will happen? They may not open the original. They may not decrypt the original message. Okay, so that the thing is here, key only provides security. Okay, not an algorithm. See, one principle is there. So that is Shannon principle. What Shannon principle? Even though the cryptographic model or the cryptographic systems are complicated, key only provides security. Okay, because protection of key is very, very important. If the key knows, everything gone. Okay, so this is why we will give more importance to key. Okay. So these are all the basic characteristics of cryptographic systems. Okay, so there are different type of encryption operations are used. For example, substitution methods are there, transposition methods are there, product methods are there. Okay, substitution means they are replacing character to numbers, number to characters, like that. Transposition, they are using some matrix forms. So likewise, there are many encryption operations are there. So based on the operation, they are encrypting the original message. Okay. So how many keys are used? Number of keys are, if you are using only single key, so that key we will call it as private key. Suppose if you are using two keys, private key as well as public key. Okay, so that is we call it as public key. Okay, so this is the way the normal encryption decryption operations are happened in cryptography. Okay, so the plain text also we may do some operation like in a block way, block cipher way, stream cipher way. So block means block by block we are encrypting the message, whereas stream means sequentially we will encrypt all the messages. Okay, so that is the difference between block and stream. See, whatever it is, this is one of the techniques we are using, okay, for encrypting the plain text. So next we will see cryptanalysis. So what is cryptanalysis? The objective to recover key, not just message. Okay, because key only provides security. So we will do some analysis like crypto analytic. Suppose some approaches are there like crypto analytic attack and brute force attack. Okay, so now let's see what is brute force attack. So brute force attack, it is all about an attacker is trying to try all the possibilities until he or she will get the original key. Okay, so this is one kind of technique the hackers are used to find out the keys. Okay, so the same way, similarly, the legitimate users, they tried all the possibilities and really find the corresponding key and recover it. Okay, so this is we call it as script analysis. We tried all the possibilities until we get the original keys. Okay, so that is one kind of analysis. Okay, so this process we call it as crypt analysis. That crypt analysis which helps to recover the hacking data. Okay, so these are all the crypto analytic attacks are possible. Okay, so the first one, cipher text only. Then attackers they focused only on the cipher text. So what is cipher text? So already encrypted message. Okay, so the plain text is converted into cipher text, which means an encrypted message. They focused on encrypted message. Okay. Suppose only no algorithm and ciphertext is statistical, it can identify the plain text. Okay, if it is statistical one, they can easily apply some cryptanalysis method and finally find out the plain text. Yes, that is very, very dangerous attack. Ciphertext only attack. And second one, known plain text attack. Okay, see some of the no or suspect plain text, they are focusing, they are targeting plain text. Okay, so they are targeting the plain text and finally they will get all the information. Chosen plain text attack. So chosen plain text attack, sometimes there are so many rounds are there. If one plain text they identify, they can easily find out the key original information. Okay, that is also very dangerous attack. And chosen similarly chosen ciphertext also. Okay, so they get one iteration decrypted key message, they can identify plain text. Okay, and chosen text also. Okay, chosen text means ciphertext. Okay, whether it is encryption or decryption, they may easily track the content. Okay, so these are all the crypt analytic attacks are there. Okay, so see these crypt analytic means mathematically they are trying all the possibilities and finally find. Okay, so and finally find plain text. Okay, sometimes the hackers are focused on ciphertext and finally do some analysis and get the original keys and original message. Sometimes the hackers are they are doing some analysis for plain text. They will get the ciphertext and original keys. So likewise, script analysis attacks is very dangerous because mathematically they are trying to do all the analysis and finally find the required one. Okay, so these are all the basic cryptanalytic attacks are available. Okay, so today we discussed what is cryptography. So what are the basic requirements are there, and what is the active attacks, and what is passive attack, and what are the security services are there, and what are the classical encryption techniques are there, and what is symmetric key model, how does symmetric key models are working, and after that we discussed what is cryptanalysis and what are the cryptanalysis attacks are available in cryptography. Okay. So this is all about today class. Thank you.